Yo, what is up, guys? It is your boy Nasimoto, and this is part 8 of the Bob build. This thing's really coming along, and in this video we are hopefully going to be laying down a lot of glass, so definitely stay tuned and have to check out the end result. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Fortunately, as you can see, it is a little snowy here in Oklahoma, and it is about 45 degrees out here. So in order for this epoxy to, fully cure and adhere well, you actually need it to be about 55 degrees. So I have been running this little DeWalt little torpedo heater thing, and it puts out a lot of heat and gets this little shed up to, I don't even know, but way more than 55 degrees. I was sweating in here, so that is gonna be plenty. We will run that when we're just doing time lapses and stuff because it's pretty loud. But right now we are going to be taking this cloth and running it along those edges and for the middle as well. And then that way that will be buttoned up, and then we can start laying bigger pieces of cloth over the engine cradle and along the whole ski. So let's go ahead and start mixing up with some epoxy and start laying down that cloth. All right, so as you see here, we got the strips on both sides. We got that middle strip, and we even added a first layer on the engine cradle. I don't know if you can see that exactly. I kind of just panicked. I had some extra epoxy, and I figured, I don't want it to go to waste, so I threw on that piece. And it is really hard to work with a big piece, especially with the fast cure epoxy. As you can see here, it started curing really fast, and I wasn't able to completely soak it, but it's just those few spots. A lot of it's just the light reflecting, but as you can see, those white spots, that's where the cloth wasn't soaked completely through. But for the majority of it, it is, so I'm not, stressing too much about it. But that is super awesome to have that first little layer. I definitely will, continue working in smaller layers if I can, just because I do have the fast cure, epoxy, and it's a lot harder to work with. But yeah, as you can see, that edge is done. The middle part is done, or not done, but it definitely has a first layer, and same for this edge. So I don't know what happened to the time lapse. It kind of cut off. So unfortunately you don't get to see that process, but there will be plenty more layers that are gonna go on this bottom. So don't stress too much. I think we're gonna have to let this one cure and then hit it again with a second layer, probably on the edges and over the whole thing as well. So let's let it cure, and I'll get back to you. All right, and just like that, we are back. The epoxy on the sides and the engine cradle part is fully cured, and it's already been sanded down. So as you can see here, that is where some air bubbles were, and it just sanded through. That way we can just, put another fresh layer on there and get a better adhesion to it. But yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and start knocking out the rockered front end. So I have some cardboard with some wax paper on there, as you can see, and we are just gonna be putting chopped mat right there and kind of filling it in, trying to get a good shape, and that way we can just go ahead and glass over the whole thing when it's finally filled in. So it is a little chilly, so we do have the torpedo heater going, and we're gonna let it warm up a little bit in here and then start hitting the glass. All right, so we just got this front end knocked out. My plan with the cardboard and the wax paper did not work out so well, so I ended up just ripping out the piece that I was working on and placing it right over, as you can see. And the shape is looking really good. I'm kind of just touching it up, as it dries, and so I get the shape that I want. But while that cures, we're gonna go ahead and start working on these sides and get these two pieces put on, and then probably a middle piece. So let's knock it out. All right, so trying to speed this process up just a little bit. I had to do some off-camera work. So as you can see, I got the front end completely filled. I used the filled epoxy, or the thickened epoxy right here. Try to, in order to give it that shape a little bit. I'm not sure how I'm gonna shape it exactly quite yet, but I know I needed to fill that in anyways. So I got that all filled in, and then I went ahead and threw some cloth over it. And as you can tell, I mean, it's pretty solid. There's a couple of air bubbles. We'll have to sand those out and fill them back in, but I think it's turning out really good. We're gonna go ahead and flip it over now and start sanding on the inside so we can fill this huge gap, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, so with this thing completely turned over for a while, I forgot how much work it's gonna be to fill in all of that. I'm not sure how exactly I'm gonna accomplish that. I may get some like plywood, cut it out to shape, and then, you know, epoxy that in. Not really sure. As far as the back though, I still plan to fill it with some 2-part foam and then put some type of deck over it, obviously. But overall, I think it's coming out pretty good. As you can see here, this is what the front end's looking like. And the inside has, I believe, like 3 or 4 layers of chopped mat. So, you know, super strong, and it'll be even stronger because I plan to put some cloth on the inside to help it even more. Yeah, I'm gonna start sanding, like I said, on the inside, and hopefully start filling that gap in. Just got the surfaces completely sanded and acetoned. Now I also put the cardboard with some wax paper just to help support the piece that I'm gonna put over. So as you can see, this part's not all sanded, but that's okay. I'm just gonna lay the mat right there, just on top, and then kind of feather it in to the sides when it's dry. And then we'll go ahead and throw some cloth over the whole thing when that is finished. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and set some chopped mat on this box and make it 2 layers thick, and then go ahead and place it over. So let's see how this works out. All right, guys, so that last video that I filmed when I was about to start working on the nose piece, that was probably a good month or so ago. And then after that, I had a couple more videos, but they ended up getting lost. I don't really know what's up with my iPhone, but hopefully it's not gonna happen in the future. But as you can see, it is almost summertime. It's super nice weather, and I really want to get this thing on the water. So I have done a little bit more off-camera work, and I'll just show you guys, you know, what I knocked out and how the build is coming along. Okay, so starting off with the nose piece, you can see the nose piece is done and the bulkhead area is pretty knocked out. So on this nose piece, I got that rounded edge, and then obviously the bottom is rockered. So I really like how this front end came out, and it's about 2 to 3 layers of cloth and mat. So this thing is pretty solid, and I plan to mount the, we have a JS pole. So I plan to mount this onto the front of that. And then, so that'll look pretty sweet. And then as you can see, we got the bulkhead knocked out. And this one was a little more tricky because I had to put like a barrier of cardboard and wax paper. But then I did that and just started stacking cloth on there, cloth and mat, and eventually got it pretty dialed So as you can see, I have my exhaust running right there, and then a couple of water lines and the bilge line. This hole right there is going to be filled in. The other ones, like I said, are just water and cooling lines. So my exhaust will route out the back, and it will go back into the pump area, kind of like what it was on the other side. But I had to switch the sides just because with everything, how this was, fitting up. But that is completely sealed off from the back of the tray. So I think the only thing that I really have to do with that is kind of put some more cloth and stuff on the bag just to help it strengthen it up a little bit more. So that is almost knocked out, and the nose is completely knocked out, like I said. It's just gonna need a little more sanding, but the shape overall is really good. So my next step, I believe, is going to be working on these back pieces. So if I get those knocked out, then I can start pouring foam in the tray and then start putting fiberglass on the tray and trying to get, somewhere to actually stand and footholds. And then after that is knocked out, I pretty much just have to throw the pole on, put the pump back in, put the motor in. Everything should, line up fairly well. May just have to shim some stuff, but overall, I think this thing is coming along really well. So we're gonna be doing the back pieces and pouring the foam in the next video. So we'll have to see then. All right, guys. So like I said, next video, exciting things are going to be happening. So if you guys like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.